to move this legislation, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Illinois reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Oregon.
Thank you. I yield myself such time as I consume.
The gentleman is recognized.
This has been a particularly difficult period of time for all of us as we witness the victims of these two enormous strategies attempt to repair the devastation that resulted from two of the largest earthquakes that we have seen in recent times. As we laid witness to the victims of the Haiti earthquake in January, I had a chance a couple of weeks ago to see for myself the magnitude of the devastation. And as somebody who was on the scene shortly after the tsunami 5 years ago, I will say that what I saw in Haiti not only rivaled that, but actually was worse than anything that I saw in Banda Aceh or Phuket or in Sri Lanka. And then just a few weeks later, we had an earthquake even larger, an 8.2, rocked the country of Chile. But through these tragedies, one thing is abundantly clear, and that is the generosity and compassion of the American people being as strong as ever. It's hard to see, to explain really the impact that we see these dedicated volunteers on the ground moving to provide services that in some cases were not available at all prior to the tragedy. And then looking at the earthquake in Chile last week, the outpouring of American support is even more remarkable given the fact that everybody put all these resources just a few days before into Haiti. Clearly there is no compassion fatigue on the part of the American public. We need to take a step back and realize that we're talking about almost 250,000 people who have died between the two, and over 1 million people displaced, and we are still finding the definition of the problem. Particularly as it relates to Haiti, we're going to find that that death toll is likely to grow much higher if we're not able to deal with the problems of water and sanitation. And here again, American voluntary efforts from non-government organizations are providing critical services, and donations, of course, just in Haiti alone have already reached $1 billion. They enable these charitable organizations, non-governmental organizations, to expedite the care and services needed for those who are injured and homeless, to help our neighbors get to safety and begin picking up the pieces and rebuilding their lives. We must be clear that the road to recovery will not be short in either country. We know that we need to expedite anything we can for Americans to be part of that process. American families who have given to facilitate the recovery ought to know that we are working to show appreciation of that compassion, to incent further actions with this adjustment. As both my colleagues have made clear, but we need to drive home that any contribution after February 26th and before the 15th to the victims of the earthquake in Chile, people can claim these contributions, charitable contributions, on the tax return that they are preparing now for the last tax year. In addition, the adjustment being made for Haiti, extending it to April 15th, is an important addition. And this is in keeping with what we did with the tsunami that struck in 2004. There's a special provision here that I want to call note to, because we've watched the innovation take place in the charitable sector. The era of the cell phone and text messaging has made it possible for hundreds of millions of dollars of charitable contributions to be made through cell phone text messaging. It enabled people to do it conveniently and quickly. It speeded the aid along, and no doubt in my mind, it increased the amount of money that went to these people in need. Now, under current law, obviously, taxpayers must receive documentation from the charity or rely on bank records to claim a deduction on their tax return. But when you're making a contribution through a text message, the only paper documentation individuals receive is from their telephone company. And right now, it's unclear whether individuals will be able to rely on a telephone bill to claim a charitable reduction. Now, as a result of this legislation, we are clarifying that taxpayers making a charitable contribution to victims of the Haiti earthquake through the text messaging effort will be able to rely on their cell phone bill when claiming a charitable deduction. To be clear, we all know that Americans are not doing this primarily for a tax deduction. It is the generous spirit of the American public, concern for men and women around the world who suffer from tragedy. But providing this incentive and clarifying the law makes it a little easier for the families who have given of themselves and others, and I would urge my colleagues to support its passage, and I would reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Oregon reserves the balance of his time. The gentleman from Illinois.
Mr. Speaker, I'm pleased to yield such time as he may consume to the gentleman from Florida, a great champion